There are shocks in Emmerdale that make viewers gasp for a few seconds. And then there are moments like this, where the weight of what happened lingers long after the scene is over. And this time, what makes it so haunting is not only the sight of Cain Dingle lying unconscious in the road after being hit by a car, but also the fact that far too many people could have been behind the wheel in that fatal moment. The April 7 episode opened with an atmosphere that felt both anxious and carefully restrained. Cain was preparing for his upcoming operation while his family fussed around him, showing concern in every little way. But true to Cain's nature, he did not want things to become too heavy. His main focus was Kyle, so he tried to keep his son's spirits up, even joking that the worst part of everything was simply being hungry. It was such a classic Cain reaction because even while facing illness himself, he still wanted to be the one calming everyone else down. Sarah then helped lift the mood by bringing Kyle's car around after getting it running again, which left him thrilled. But even in that lighter moment, Cain was quick to point out that the car was not road legal. It is a small detail, but it says a lot about him. He was still sharp, still paying attention, still trying to hold on to some sense of normality while so much in his life felt uncertain. That is exactly why what happened next hit even harder. Before leaving, Cain took a quiet walk and spoke to Moira on the phone. It is rare to see him sound that openly hopeful, but this time he genuinely believed things were going to work out. He believed he would beat the cancer, that Moira would come home, and that they would still get their happy ending. It was a beautiful moment, and maybe that is precisely why the tragedy that followed felt even crueler. Emmerdale clearly let Cain reach for hope, only to rip it away almost immediately. Meanwhile, tension was spiraling in a completely different direction at the hospital. Dr. Todd's father suddenly went into cardiac arrest, and Jacob rushed in to perform CPR despite being told the patient had a DNR in place. Rich refused to help, but Jacob kept going because he believed Todd would blame him if he stood there and did nothing. Saving the man should have been an act driven by instinct and compassion, but instead, it came back to punish him. Dr. Todd lashed out, accusing Jacob of making a serious error and even claiming he had assaulted her father. She sent him home and crushed his confidence by telling him he would never complete his training or become a doctor. For Jacob, this was not just a professional clash. It was a brutal hit to his pride and his future. And when someone that young is pushed to that point, losing emotional control becomes very believable. Elsewhere, Graham was not in a much better state. He was still reeling from Rona's rejection, so emotionally he was already hanging by a thread. A seemingly light comment from Kim touched a nerve, and her attempt to comfort him only made things worse. Later in the cafe, Marlon tried to smooth things over by apologizing for the way he had behaved earlier and admitting that he had felt threatened. But Graham took it as mockery, as if everyone around him saw him as pathetic. When someone is already primed to explode, even a small misunderstanding can push them over the edge. Graham stormed out in anger and got into his car in a state that was clearly far from stable. At the same time, Kerry and Pollard's relationship finally broke apart beyond repair. After yet another row over Jai, Pollard told Kerry to leave, which led her to confide in Jai and accept his offer of a place to stay. Later, Caleb pushed Pollard to see just how much Kerry had done for him, and that finally forced him to recognize his mistake. He tried to apologize, calling himself a stupid old fool and admitting how sorry he was. But this time, the apology was no longer enough. Kerry made it clear that she was moving out and that they needed a divorce. Even though Pollard begged her to stay and told her he loved her, Kerry insisted that the trust was gone and walked away, leaving him devastated. For Kerry, this was no passing burst of anger. It felt like a final decision made after too much damage had already been done. And in that emotional state, she was just as dangerous behind the wheel as anyone else. All of those storylines finally collided in one devastating moment. Jacob, Graham, and Kerry each got into a car while distracted, emotional, and completely unfit to be driving. At the same time, Cain was still walking along the road, still talking to Moira, and still managing to tell her that he loved her. Then in an instant, a car came speeding around the corner and slammed into him, throwing him to the ground unconscious. On the other end of the phone, Moira could do nothing but cry out for Cain as the silence became terrifying. What makes the scene even more painful is that it is Kyle who finds him. The boy sees his father lying motionless in the road while Moira remains trapped at the other end of the call in sheer panic. Everything suddenly rests on whether Kyle can get help quickly enough. That is where the episode really tightens its grip, leaving viewers asking whether Cain might actually not survive this time. Even though the scene is framed in the most dangerous way possible, upcoming episodes confirm that Cain does survive. Next week, he is still in hospital recovering, but already getting involved in Moira's situation by urging her not to plead guilty in her case. More than that, he even finds the strength to make it to court, determined to fight for his family and help bring Moira home. That says everything about who Cain is. This accident does not truly break him. If anything, it underlines what has always defined him: stubbornness, loyalty to his family, and a refusal to go down without a fight. At this point, the most compelling question is no longer whether Cain dies, but which one of those three was actually driving the car that hit him. Psychologically, Jacob, Graham, and Kerry all had strong reasons to be distracted. So there is a good chance the show will stretch out the mystery a little longer to give it even more impact. But no matter who turns out to be responsible, this crash is bound to trigger consequences that go far beyond Cain's physical injuries. It is going to unleash guilt, fear, and confrontation in the episodes ahead. If you enjoy Emmerdale updates that stay close to the plot while digging into character psychology, make sure to subscribe for more videos like this.